Today we're looking at another sonnet. This is Sonnet 30 by Edmund Spenser. And this rhyme scheme and this structure is going to be a little bit different from the ones that we've done so far. So let's go through and label the rhyme scheme first, and then we'll talk about the structure. You can see how it's different from the Shakespearean sonnets that we've read. All right, so the first line is always A. Then let's go to great does not rhyme with entreats. That's going to be B. Desire and fire rhymes, so that's going to be A. And then entreat and great, those rhyme. And I know that you're probably thinking they don't rhyme, but you have to think of two things. Number one, there was the great vowel shift over the past several hundred years where vowel sounds are not exactly the same. But you have that E-A-T, R-E-A-T sound at the end. So they're going to be the same label. All right, now let's look at heat. Heat and entreat rhyme, so that's going to get the label B. Cold doesn't rhyme with anything so far, so that's going to get C. Now, sweat and heat, I know what you're thinking, that doesn't rhyme, but it does. So it's going to get the label B. All right, so cold and manifold rhyme, so that's going to be C. Let's go to the next line. Told rhymes with cold and manifold, so that's going to get C. Ice doesn't rhyme with anything, so that's going to be D. Cold, it's going to be C. Device is going to be D. And then mind and kind do not rhyme with anything so far, so we're going to give that, both of those, the label of E. So with that, this is called a Spenserian sonnet. So a Spenserian sonnet is a sonnet that's divided into 3 quatrains and a couplet. So Shakespearean sonnets are 3 quatrains and a couplet, and so are Spenserian sonnets. But let's look at the difference in the rhyme scheme here. So you've got 3 quatrains and a couplet. So you've got quatrain 1, quatrain 2, quatrain 3, and your couplet. But what do you notice that's different about Spenserian and Shakespearean? If you look, you've got this linking between quatrains based on rhyme scheme. So if you notice, it's A, B, A, B, and then it sticks with B for the first line of the second quatrain, whereas with Shakespeare, it changes to C. So the rhyme scheme links the quatrains in a Spenserian sonnet. But nonetheless, we are still divided into 3 quatrains and a couplet. Let's look at the end of each quatrain, and I've told you over and over again that it's not just about being able to label the rhyme scheme, but it can really help you to see how the sonnets and how poetry is divided based on rhyme scheme. So look at the end of each quatrain. Look at what you have. You have a question mark. So each quatrain develops a question. And then, if you notice, the couplet doesn't have a question. So what is that probably going to be? That's probably going to be the answer. So 3 quatrains, each quatrain develops a question, and then the couplet is going to give the answer. All right, so I'm going to help you with the first quatrain, and then after that, you're going to be on your own to figure out what the remainder of the poem means. So he says, my love is like to ice and I to fire. Now, this doesn't mean that the love that he feels, when he says my love, this is the woman he loves. All right, so this is the woman that he loves, is what he's talking about. So the woman I love is like to ice. So we've got a simile here, right? And I am like to fire, which it says and I to fire, but he's saying that I'm like fire. So the woman that he loves is ice, and he, the speaker, is fire. So if we were to paraphrase this, he's saying the woman I love is like ice and I'm like fire. And that's good and great that you can identify a simile, but what do I keep saying over and over and over again about identifying all of these literary devices and figurative language? It's great if you can identify that, but if you can't figure out what it means, then it's not getting you anywhere. So you've got the simile. My love is like to ice and I to fire. But what does the ice and the fire tell us about their feelings? So the woman he loves is like ice. So she doesn't like him. And because if your feelings are like ice, then you're kind of giving the cold shoulder. You've got a cold heart. So being like ice, I'm just going to put cold heart. She does not like him. But then whenever he says he is like fire, think of it as his feelings of her, for her, desire. He desires her. And I like the way to put it, he has the hots for her. People have said that before. It means you really like someone. So the simile on this first line, my love is like to ice and I to fire, what we get from that is that she is cold-hearted towards him. She does not like him. She has no feelings for him. But he has a very burning, deep desire for her. So let's start looking at the question. The first part of this is, how comes it then that this, her cold, so great, is not dissolved through my hot, so hot desire? Now, what I'm going to do is, whenever I look at this on the left-hand side of the poem, I'm going to put, what is he literally saying? And then on the right-hand side of the poem, I'm going to put figuratively what it means. So, literal, figurative. And whenever I'm saying literal and figurative, this is going to be, the literal is going to be the fire and ice. Like, what is he saying about fire and ice? And then the figurative is going to be, what is he saying about their feelings towards each other? All right, so when he says, why is this, her cold so great is not dissolved through my so hot desire? So he's questioning, why does my heat not melt her ice? Or why does my fire not melt her ice? All right, so there's the first part of the question. But figuratively, what does this mean about their feelings? He's asking, why does she still not like me even through my desire? I'm going to put, why does she not like me despite my desire? Because what he's thinking is that just like fire would melt ice, he thinks that his desire for her would melt her cold heart, would make her begin to desire him as well. So there's the first part of the question. Let's look at the next part of the question. So we've already covered that why does my desire for her not melt that cold heart that she has towards me, but instead it harder grows the more I hurt and treat. So he's saying that the ice becomes colder. And we get that it becomes colder because he says that the ice grows harder. If ice grows harder, it's becoming colder. But he's not literally talking about ice. What he's talking about is my desire for her means that her feelings is even more of dislike. Okay, so her feeling is even more dislike towards him. So whenever he says that the ice grows harder, he means that her dislike grows even more. So if we were to paraphrase this first question, he's saying, all right, so my love is like ice and I'm like fire, which means the woman I love doesn't really like me at all, but I have a great desire for her. But why is it that her ice is not melted by my desire, but grows even colder? And what he means by that is, why does my desire and love for her not make her like me, but instead it makes her dislike me even more? And so I want you to really start thinking about this, and you can think about a situation like this. You've probably seen people like this where, and it can go either way, but we'll use it, the example of how he's given us is, okay, so you've got a girl and you've got a guy, and the guy really likes the girl doesn't like the guy at all. So this guy likes her and he tries to show his feelings for her. He tries to show her that he cares. He tells her she's beautiful. He opens the door. He writes her little love notes, whatever, I don't know. And the more he shows that desire for her, the more she dislikes him. All right? So there's our opening quatrain. What I want you to do is I want you to figure out these next two quatrains. So the next one, or how comes it that my exceeding heat is not allayed by her heart frozen cold, but I burn much more in boiling sweat and feel my flames augmented manifold. And then look at the third quatrain, which is going to give you your third question, and then look at the couplet, which is the answer. All right, so once you're able to do all of these, I'm going to have a little quiz, and I want you to give me some answers on that. And then you're going to make sure that you do that soapstone in your notebook so that you get the speaker and everything, because at the end of our sonnets unit, you're going to have a sonnet explication where you're going to have to explain all of the different components of one of these sonnets. So make sure that you're getting the notes that you need. So go ahead, figure out what the rest of the sonnet means, answer the questions that I put in the quiz, and do your notebook activity for Sonnet 30.